Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Welcome, Rakib.
Evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you on board today because I think there's a lot of very serious subjects to discuss in which I think you have some knowledge. Now, first of all, let's talk about this. A shock new report has come out. It's been produced and it's revealing that over the past year, foreigners accounted for more than a quarter of all sexual assault convictions. Now, this came after Baroness Casey's report disclosed that a significant proportion of rape gang suspects being investigated by the police right now are or were asylum seekers. Now, we revealed yesterday, Rakib, on this show, due to a Freedom of Information request, that over the past 5 years, 132,500 migrants have come across the channel without passports. In other words, the vast majority of them, actually. So every year you've got about 30, 40, 45,000. Only about 10 or 8,000 of those every year have actually turned up with passports. So 132,500 people without passports who are essentially let into the country. And these are people about whom we know nothing. We worry that they could be terrorists. We worry that they could be sex criminals. And now we learn, first of all, more than a quarter of all sex convictions in this country are of foreign nationals. And also, Baroness Casey reveals that a significant proportion of the rape gang members are asylum seekers. Do you see it all coming together? This means that the migration policies of this government, and to be fair, previous governments, but it's getting worse under Labour, are making this country an extremely unsafe place for women, and that is a catastrophe.
No, I couldn't agree more, Kevin. I've said many times before that the ongoing small boats emergency on the English South Coast is a national security emergency. And there's no doubt in my mind that our porous borders, our fundamental lack of border security, and our dysfunctional asylum system has undermined the safety and security of British women and girls. And that is the story that is coming through the figures when it comes to the rates of convictions for sexual offences broken down by nationality. When you look at those crimes, foreign nationals are overrepresented when it comes to convictions. So I think that this is precisely why I support a well-ordered immigration system, which is rigorous and selective. And I also support an asylum system which ultimately prioritises women and girls who are at risk of sexual violence in their homelands. Now, at the moment, our asylum system is being overburdened, indeed overrun, by illegal male migrants. And based on the figures that you've said there, the vast majority, we have absolutely no idea about their political sympathies, their organisational affiliations, and indeed their potential criminal history in their country of origin. It's a very sorry state of affairs, and what it really does is undermine our collective security, and the law-abiding British mainstream is being let down by the British political establishment, which spans across several political parties.
Yeah, I'm going to break down those figures I just gave you, just to encompass the sheer scale of it. So as I say, over the past 5 years since 2020, 132,560 small boat migrants have arrived illegally without passports, no documents. 2021, 27,900 without passports. 2022, 42,003. 2023, 27,905. Last year, 2024, 34,752. Don't you think, given that, and let's, again, to reiterate, that is the vast majority who've been crossing the channel illegally and basically breaking into this country. And we also know that the vast majority of small boat migrants are men. They're young military-aged men between the ages
Who
of
are unattached, they're not coming with family members.
Exactly right. So it's mostly young men. We're now learning that Baroness Casey said many of them have joined these rape gangs. They're currently under investigation, by the way, proving that the scourge of the rape gang horror is still going on. It's still happening. Make no mistake about that. Police are currently chasing people around the country, so let's not forget that. But given those statistics I just told you, 132,516, don't you think we as a nation, have a right to demand of our government, to demand of Keir Starmer and the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper? Look, you can't let people in without documents.
Well,
we must. We should be able to demand. They must have passports. We must know who they are. You've got to stop letting people in about whom we know nothing. It looks like they're committing a massively, disgracefully disproportionate amount of the sex crimes in this country. And as Baroness Casey said, a substantial proportion of them have joined rape gangs. This is because we know nothing about them when we let them in. We ought to be demanding of Starmer passports or they can't come in. What do you think?
Well, I think what you're referring to there, Kevin, is a very basic expectation. And with our immigration system, I think that we need to see some fundamental reforms. In my view, we should be prioritising migrants from relatively stable English-speaking democracies with comparable standards of living and compatible social and cultural norms. That's not racist. That is basic common sense, and having an immigration system which prioritises integration. And in terms of our asylum system, it is completely dysfunctional and is being overrun by illegal male migrants. Let's be honest, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of small boat migrants are unchecked male migrants, often originating from countries of origin where the prevailing social and cultural norms, especially towards women's rights, are fundamentally incompatible with those of Western liberal democracy. It's a recipe for disaster. And now our dysfunctional asylum system is feeding into our nationwide scourge of grooming gang activity. And that further complicates the picture when it comes to group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse. And we've seen many cases where fundamental security failures involving our asylum system have also led to Islamist terrorist attacks. So the point is that without a sound immigration and asylum policy, you cannot provide a high level of collective public security, and that needs to be understood by this current Labour government. But I also make the point that the Conservative government was responsible for many failures on these fronts, and the gap between the rhetoric on immigration and asylum and the reality, the policy reality, it couldn't have been wider.
Absolutely. So in Australia, what they decided, and it solved their migrant crisis, all these people who arrive on illegal vessels, illegally, and pitch up on our shores and demand asylum, we will say no, because you've arrived illegally, because you broke our laws in your voyage, you arrived on an illegal vessel, that negates your right to claiming asylum. Now, I wouldn't mind us doing that totally in this country, but at the very least, why not say to the asylum seekers, the cross-channel migrants, if you turn up without a passport, no, there's no chance of you getting asylum whatsoever. Because we know what they're doing. They're chucking their passports and their documents into the English Channel on the way across. That's what they do. Everybody knows that. So I think we should urgently change the goalposts because there is no worse charge you can make against the government than your policies are endangering the women of this country. And that is the fact of the matter.
That is the reality.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the reality. And I think that immigration, the failures of having a well-ordered immigration system, and I have to make this point as well, that many of these failures are happening in the post-Brexit context. This is not what Leave voters had in mind. In reality, it feels like we're in even less control of our borders. And I think that what we really have to talk about here is the UK's relationship with existing international human rights conventions and international refugee treaties. And if there is very little chance of modernizing these conventions and treaties, then we have to entertain the possibility of withdrawing from them. Because if we are attached to those conventions and treaties, Kevin, it's very likely that we will not have truly meaningful sovereignty when it comes to our immigration and asylum policy. But I'd also have to make the point that you need to have a government that has the willpower and also that sense of protectiveness over the law-abiding British public when it comes to designing immigration and asylum policy. Britain is ultimately a home. And I'd make the point that when it comes to having a home, you should be very protective over it. And that includes being highly selective over who enters your home. At the moment, it's open season. And I think that, as you say, that is undermining the safety and security of British women and girls. And the Labour government had very ambitious plans to reduce violence towards women and girls. Well, I'd like to see that passion when it comes to designing future immigration and asylum policies.
Yeah, I remember that. The Keir Starmer said we will half the number of sex crimes against British women. And I was thinking, well, yeah, wouldn't it be a better ambition to actually get rid of them altogether? But that's another issue. Where I think we've arrived at here is crisis point. The Starmer, I think, and his government are now under intense pressure to do something instead of just standing there saying, smash the gangs, because they haven't smashed a single gang in 11 months. As I always say, that's the wrong strategy. You've got to stop the migrants. If you stop the migrants, the gangs automatically get smashed. If you smashed all the gangs that exist right now, regular listeners will get fed up with me saying this, but it is a fact that bears repeating. If you smashed all the gangs, people smuggling gangs tonight, there'll be new ones tomorrow morning because of the rule of supply and demand. There are thousands of migrants waiting on the northern French coast, and as long as there will be people smugglers. Whether or not you smash some today, there'll be new ones tomorrow. So Labour's, Starmer's and Cooper's strategy, their policy, it's not flawed. It is absolutely doomed to failure, and they kind of know it. I think they thought they could get away with approaching the migrant crisis in a performative way, to use tough words that will make the headlines. Smash the gangs, the evil people smuggling gangs. It sounds good, doesn't it? It makes the headlines. The trouble is, after 11 months, when you haven't even come close to even finding a people smuggling gang, the smash the gangs rhetoric starts to sound a little bit hollow.